Hi everyone, Tracy here from Temperance Tarot, and I had a request to show my copy of the 1910 Rider Tarot Revived that is currently available on Amazon. And so I decided to compare it to the Yellow Box Rider Tarot deck that is also currently available on Amazon to show you the differences. This 1910 Rider Tarot, I got it off of Amazon maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was about $15, so I thought, hey, it's worth a shot. Let's see what it turns out to look like, because you know sometimes you can get decks that are really bad reproductions or really bad cardstock, but it's actually an okay deck, and you'll see in a second when I start showing the cards. The deck came with this little bag as well that the box just barely fits in. But since the box is kind of flimsy, it's a nice touch. And again, it was about 15 US, and we will get into the comparison. The 1910 Rider Revived is published by Mystic Wares. It came with absolutely no information. It came with no little white book, no information about which copy of the Waite Smith Tarot it used as its basis. So here we have the Fool, and you can see the 1910 Rider Tarot is on the right, and the current Yellow Box Rider Tarot deck is on the left, the US Games version. And I've been watching the videos from Nobody Here and Mindful Tarot. I'm not quite sure how they got away with publishing this deck with all the brouhaha that's going on with the AGM version of the deck not being able to be sold in the United States. But you can definitely see a vast difference in the coloration between these two decks. The current modern one is much brighter, and the older one is much more subtle. The main difference you can see is that the lining around the actual art. There is no line around the art in the 1910 version. The US Games version, naturally, it has the copyright information, and this is the new version that doesn't have Pixie's handwriting on the cards. And if we have a look at that card in the 1910 version, I just think it's better. I am seriously thinking about trimming this deck because I miss the little black border, but I don't think I would miss it so much if I had this white border gone. But the colors are just lovely, and the lines are just crisper. And this is what the back looks like. It's got I don't really care one way or the other too much about the back. I don't love it. What's that weird eye thing in there? Oh, I can actually see it on the camera. So it's got this weird eye thing in the middle. The cardstock itself, you know, it's not US Games cardstock. It's not as thick as US Games cardstock, but it's better than I expected it to be. I'm pretty sure it doesn't show on camera. It has a slight linen. Oh, well, look there. You see that kind of the shiny spots up in the sun? That's because it's got a slight linen finish to it. It's not bad cardstock really at all, especially for a $15 deck. So let's look. I'm not going to show every single card. We've all seen these cards, but to give you an idea of what this 1910 deck looks like, I'm going to show a few of the cards. In person, the 1910 deck can look a little bit dull. And I don't mean that in a bad or a good way. It just almost kind of looks like it was a photograph taken of an original deck and then digitally reproduced. Which is probably, I can't say for sure, but that's probably what it was. So with our digital photography nowadays being so much more sophisticated, it seems to it's almost like you're looking at it through slightly dirty glass when you look at it in person. It still doesn't make it bad, but it just sort of casts a gray haze to it a little bit. And here's the Emperor, and you can see the background colors is basically completely different between the two decks. And his face, here's the modern version and all the lines. And his face, you know, he's still rosy. But it's just, I like it better. The Lovers is a good card to look at. The line work on the clouds is actually thicker on the 1910 deck. But look at the face of the angel. It's almost like they're different faces. You have this face on the US Games deck. This face. And this right here isn't just a blob of black. You can actually see line markings here. We'll show the death card. That's an important card for a lot of people. And here's the World. Here's the Three of Cups. And here's the Queen of Cups. The Seven of Swords is a really good example of showing the difference in the coloring. And you can see the modern version isn't quite getting his face right. Even the weird skin color, it's just not showing up on the face correctly. And this is what we have in the 1910. And the best comparison to see the difference in the line work and the coloration really is this King of Pentacles, because he's muddy, kind of muddy regardless of what deck you find him in. But he's a little bit less muddy in the 1910 version. One additional comparison is to compare it to the Smith-Waite Centennial deck, which, as we all know, is much better than this current yellow box deck. I could not find, if I had looked harder, I'm sure I could have found my full-size Smith-Waite Centennial, but it was just easier to go find the one in the 10 that was in my purse. The coloring is slightly different. The coloring in the Centennial still looks a little bit brighter. Let's look at a couple more cards. Here's the Fool. And if you look at the Fool in the Centennial edition, you still see some lining in the coloration of like his face and the red under his sleeves. Whereas with the 1910, you just don't get so much of that lining, particularly in his face. You still get some of it in under the sleeves. And here in the Queen of Cups, you can see the color of the sky is a bit different. It's a bit grayer in the Centennial edition. But all those little rocks down at her feet, the color seems to be fairly close. The throne she's sitting on appears to be a little bit different colors. And you can kind of tell now that they've trimmed off a little bit of the image in creating this card. And look, there's a little bit of a line right up there where the trimming of the image didn't go quite as planned. And you can see there's a little bit less over to the right of her throne than you have on this card. Anyway, that's enough about this. I'm going to give it a shuffle, the new one a shuffle, so that you can tell how it shuffles. Because the Centennial that is not the pocket version, the cardstock is very thick and kind of hard to riffle shuffle because it's so thick. I like the pocket edition better because it's easier to shuffle. This one is very nice to shuffle, so let's have a look. Not getting that in camera really well. can't really see what I'm doing. But you can see that this shuffles very nicely. It's actually, I think it's quite nice cardstock because I don't like my cardstock to be too thin. But it's a good deck. And if you're one of those Rider-Waite-Smith deck hounds, kind of like I am, you might want to add it to your collection. It's only $15. Just depends on what you want. If you've got a Centennial version, that one might be perfectly acceptable to you. This one is horrible. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.